friend. If you know me, then you probably know him, Peyton Murray. Peyton is an introvert. Me, not one bit. Peyton has always joked around that introverts will remain in their small group or by themselves until the extrovert comes around, adopts them, and brings them out into the world. Now, let me stop right there. If any introverts got offended by that, I did not say that. That is one of your fellow introverts that said it, okay? So let's move on. I've learned a thing or two from Peyton, such as I had no clue that many people need to socially recharge. Okay, that's not a thing for me. For me, I'd be perfectly content with just moving from one hangout to another without stopping. I recharge when I sleep, okay? If I need any alone time, then it's usually because I'm upset about something. This idea of needing time to socially recharge, it's good. It is good to get away with just you and God and recharge. Recharge time is good, but often it is easy to become alone and stay isolated. Having a moment to yourself or a day to yourself to recharge, that's not isolation. That is actually biblical. To take a day to rest, that is called the Sabbath day. Many people, however, find themselves stuck in loneliness and isolation. They find themselves stuck in a rut. Maybe they got hurt by a friend and they decided to retract to protect their hearts. Maybe a relationship ended because the loved one betrayed their trust, so now they have given up on having a healthy relationship. Or maybe they got hurt in church and have given up on the idea of having a healthy church community. Maybe you are thinking right now, is it just me? Am I the only one going through this? Am I the only one that's lonely? Whatever the reason, however valid the reason may be, extreme isolation is destructive and it is not God's best will for your life. Problems do not get better by yourself. Life's purposes are not achieved by yourself. Adam and Eve sinned in the garden. They hid from God and their shame grew. Elijah was being hunted down by King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. He hid in the cave while there and he contemplated killing himself and he believed he did not have a purpose. Isolation is where bad things grow. In dark and lonely environments, mold, fungus, and moss grow. In the open, though, with light, flowers, fruit, and vegetables grow. What I'm about to say is not a one-size-fits-all statement. Depression is a very unique thing. Some coping mechanisms and exercise, they work for some, while for others they do not. So do not confuse what I'm about to say. I have counseled several people who struggled with depression, and they had one thing in common. Recently, they had been either separated from their community and had a lot of time by themselves, or they're just staying at home all day and they're not getting outside with people, fresh air, sunlight, and exercise. You know, sometimes our darkest moments within ourselves can become better with simply getting involved with your community. This is why we are pushing life groups so much right now. If you have not attended a life group on Zoom or in person, then do it today. Private message me and we can get you hooked up, I promise you. If you want to grow spiritually, then you have to get into community. That is a fact and you will not grow without it. When a lion chooses its prey, the first thing it does is separate the weaker animals from the pack. Why is this so important? If the weaker animals are separated from its community, then they're separated from its source of strength and it has a higher chance of being killed. Now, with that in mind, let's read 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. When you are separated from community, then you are separated from strength. Satan will use isolation to put you in a weak spot so he can attack your relationship with God. Wars are not won by yourself. It takes an army. God has a purpose for your life, and it involves a healthy community. Being alone with God is important. Having time to yourself is important, trust me. But extreme isolation is destructive. Satan uses isolation as a tool to separate you from God and others. We need to practice connecting with others to get where God wants us. Jesus, 100% God and 100% human, he knew the importance of having community. Remember, he's 100% God. Everything you have ever read about the disciples and Jesus, he could have done it by himself and probably better than some of the disciples, okay? He is God, yet he surrounded himself with a team, community, people. Why? Because life together is successful. Life alone drags along. You might be thinking, but I don't like people, okay? People don't like me. Or I've gotten this far by myself, why do I need anyone else? I'm not telling you to go and be the life of the party, to be someone you're not. I'm not saying to stop being you. I am saying find a community of people and start going after God together, whatever that looks like. A community is so much more than a church. It is a tight-knit group of people, all going after the same goals with the same interests. Get a community around you that goes after God with you. If you're thinking that you don't need people, you don't need a community, here's my only answer for you. Here's my only response, and I promise you I'm trying to say it with all the love I have. That is arrogant and incorrect. Jesus, God himself, surrounded himself with 12 men. They became friends and helped one another live for 3 years straight. Jesus did not need their help though. Jesus saw the need in community because it wasn't until those 12 men got together and lived life on the same mission that they realized that this is a movement. Christianity, the world's largest movement, was birthed in community and togetherness. It will only succeed with community and togetherness. If Jesus chose community, then why shouldn't we? If you are struggling with isolation and all the things that comes from loneliness, let me encourage you with something Peter said. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 9. Stand firm against him, the devil, and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family, your community of believers all over the world, they are going through the same kind of suffering you are. You are not alone. If you're going through something, then I guarantee you someone else is too. We as believers, we cannot help others when they are struggling if we are never with them, okay? Now listen to this. If you are struggling with something, then your community cannot help you if you're not there or if you don't have one to begin with. We need one another. 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 6 and 10. So humble yourself under the mighty power of God, and he will lift you up in honor. Skip ahead to verse 10. He will restore, he will support and strengthen you. He will place you on a firm foundation. Put yourself under God's power so that his power can be over you. If you are weak, then that is just a sign that there is room for God's strength. Let him restore, support, and strengthen you. Let your church family support and strengthen you. Get in a group this week. You will not regret it. We love you guys.